is up, Bridger. Mine at last.
Hang on!
Hello, welcome back to the Waffle Press podcast. We're here to talk about Star Wars Rebels. We like Star Wars here. I did a retrospective on it. Nick and I also did an older retrospective on it. Say hi, Nick.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. We're not in the same room today, but that's okay, because we had to get together to talk about a pretty big series finale. I don't watch a lot of television anymore. I got too busy, and I wish I had more time, because it took me a while to get back on the train for Star Wars Rebels in the first place. Nick, how did you come across the Star Wars animated universe?
I first started watching it with Clone Wars.
Same.
I got into it with Clone Wars. I enjoyed Dave Filoni's beginning works with that first animated movie that they did. Everything else, I actually am on the other side where I actually enjoyed the animated movie.
Someone had to.
Tano. I enjoyed it. I like the introduction of Ahsoka Tano and like Rex and like the clones and stuff like that. I really enjoyed that, but yeah, that's kind of where I got started with it. And then as soon as I heard about Rebels as being a new thing after Disney bought them, I was super excited to find out that Dave Filoni was going to be working on that as well.
Yeah, I also watched Clone Wars a little bit, and then I think I've talked about it on the show a couple times, but just to reiterate, didn't like it at first, and then I grew to love it so much because Dave Filoni clearly gets Star Wars, whether it's like the swashbuckling adventure nature of it or the spirituality side of it. He feels like a natural successor of sorts to George Lucas. I think there are a couple people that are working with him that feel that way, but he's up there too.
Absolutely. I do feel that Star Wars Star Wars Clone Wars is the definition of hit and miss. When it misses, it does not hit the mark at all. But when it hits, it just hits. Like it is some of the greatest Star Wars stuff that you will ever like be able to watch or to be a part of.
Yeah, I actually feel that I even tweeted about it once I finally finished it, that like I think 90% of that show hits. I know it has a reputation for being a little hit and miss because it like there's lots of standalone stories. I actually prefer that a lot, especially because we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about Star Wars Rebels officially. I think that could have benefited from some of this when it wasn't always hitting.
Yeah,
and not to compare and contrast. They're two very different series, but I feel that that structure definitely benefited for that series.
Not only that, but also I really do. I like some of the episodes. I mean, the Jar Jar episode, it's a little bit lacking, but I mean, I love the different episodes. Just going into like spending an entire 3 episodes with the clones. You know, spending an entire time with like an entire squad of clones that we never got to meet inside of the actual like trilogies. I mean, inside the saga, and now we're getting time to know the clones, we're getting time to know who they are, what they think, what the personalities are, the fact that clones aren't just clones that just follow orders and stuff like that. They are people. They live, they breathe, they think, and they have their own personalities.
Yeah, actually, one of my, the episode that caught me most off guard, I don't think it's even, my top, 10 favorites or anything. There's just an episode in the Clone Wars where we're following a unit of droids, and the whole arc is okay, it's fine. But there's one episode where they're stranded on this planet, and it's just this expressionistic painting, that's in all the backgrounds, and it looks like they're really playing with a lot of visual art styles, and it was so cool. I didn't care that the story wasn't exhilarating in a classic Star Wars way. They were doing something totally different, and that was great. And I think Clone Wars it showed what Star Wars could do, which arguably hasn't fully been capitalized on yet in a lot of the medium. And so that I was a huge fan of Clone Wars, and I couldn't wait for Star Wars Rebels, actually.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it just because of seeing the episodes they did with Delta Squad and stuff like that. You know, just meeting 5 random clones. They're learning how to be soldiers inside of their academy and everything like that. Finding out that there actually is a clone academy and stuff like that, and then you going through their journey and then slowly spoilers, but I mean for a show that's been out since the early 2000s, but like you start seeing them kind of get picked off in this war, and it's tragic. It's like you made a connection to these clones, and then as they fall in this war, you care. You're really sad to see them go.
Yeah, that series got really dark, and like it's kind of incredible how dark that series gets at times for a kids show. Like not just people dying,
Oh yeah.
but like what it deals with, like war profiteering, and how
Oh yeah.
essentially the series builds up to a movie where everyone dies, basically. That's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Not only that, but also it goes into that whole like there are moments that like where like people are so close to figuring out Palpatine's plan. You know, there are moments where like if this person is able to talk to this person, then the entire series would be different, and it could change everything in the Star Wars universe. And then something happens that stops them from doing that, and it just it destroys you because you're like he was so close, he could have stopped everything.
Yeah, yeah, and there in that series, I think it really definitely feels more tragic than like wheel spinning. And not to just start off with negatives, but I probably will. Star Wars Rebels at its best never felt like that either. It was it wasn't pushing the medium like in a bold new direction or anything
Yeah.
until the end, I would argue. But it like the first season when it first premiered, I was such a huge fan. I still am a huge
Oh.
fan, obviously, but like I think that first season was structured so well narratively because it's really about this team like
Mhm.
forming as a unit and then becoming more than just a unit and becoming a little family, but also essentially kicks off a galactic wide rebellion. Like there are little pockets here and there, but they're the
Mhm.
ones that really make the mark against the Empire for the first time in like a decade or whatever,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that was great. I was so excited to see this explored in this is before Rogue One too when it premiered, and so
Yes.
that was kind of nifty.
Yeah, and I really did. I think that season one by far is one of the best seasons of the series. I do think that how it's structured. Going into like Sabine, Zeb, Hera, Kanan, and also Ezra's like backstories and like giving you all of the meat of like these characters and giving you to care. The fact that they're just kind of scoundrels, and they don't want to really get involved in a war. They're just trying to make ends meet, and they're trying to they're stealing what they can, and they're trying to help people out. That's it. They're not really trying to be a rebellion. They're just trying to survive.
Yeah, and when they get dragged into the greater conflict in season two, that premiere is incredible. You know, like
Oh
it's a
yeah.
total game changer.
I would say that even the season finale of season one is a game changer. The minute that you find out that there's an ex Jedi who is the one that's dealing with all of like the rebellion. She's the one that's kind of like communicating with all the rebellion and kind of like making this counteroffensive as Fulcrum.
Yeah, yeah, no, that was great, and I was very optimistic for the series, and the series I'm gonna kind of be a little harsh on it, but it's never been less than watchable or decent.
Really,
I would never say there are any like outright bad or terrible moments or episodes in the show.
really, I don't know if I would agree with that, but I would say that there may not be like great scenes because I think there's like amazing scenes in season two. I mean, in season two, there are some of like the best scenes. Like the Ahsoka and Vader scenes. Anything that has to do with Maul, really. I mean, they turned Maul from being this one note character from episode one, where he only had one line in a badass battle with Qui Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi, into Clone Wars and gave him more of an arc, and then into Rebels, and then made him even more of a badass, and just kind of went like, oh shit, like this guy is awesome. Like I love fucking Darth Maul.
I
He's a great.
loved well, not Darth Maul, he's just Maul in this.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
Maul.
just
Yes, you're
Maul.
correct.
But I loved him in Clone Wars, and I that was fucking baffling. Like I did never expect that was the biggest surprise for me in that show. I think like being
Yeah,
fully invested in a character that's like so compelling now, and I just never would have imagined that. and I love his
Yeah.
ending in Clone Wars and Rebels, but I think where the show started to run into issues was when it was not 3 seasons, because there's a clear like arc over the course of the show, and if you look
Uh-huh.
at like season 2 and season 3 and season 4 at the beginning to an extent, like there's really great stuff in it, but there's
Yeah.
also a lot of other stuff in it, and there's like little there's tidbits sprinkled here and there for characters and ideas and themes that carry out the show, but they're really spread out, and I could just imagine like someone tightening this all up and it being fucking like the perfect Star Wars show, because there's a lot of little nooks and crannies where stuff's slipping out. Characters kind of just spend episodes doing like one-off mission things.
Yeah.
Most of those like come back in the long
Oh,
run,
they
which is
do.
nice. But
Like space
something,
whales.
yeah,
Space whales come back.
that got a lot of criticism, I guess, and I thought that was super cool and dorky and perfectly Star Wars. So
Yeah, I thought that was perfectly Star Wars. The space whales coming back in the season finale. I mean, the series finale of like, oh yeah, we're just gonna bring back fucking space whales. Why not?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I was gonna hop around season 2, 3, 4, but to further my own point, I don't know if there's actually that much difference between them in quality when they're really good. Because, like you
no.
said, the Darth Vader stuff is incredible, and that
Thrawn.
introduction and like his stuff in season 2 is great, but then he's not in it a lot, and it's not like a case of like, well, I want him in everything. It's just I didn't feel he was used to his best potential, and the same for
I
Thrawn.
I think it was also a matter of James Earl Jones is extraordinarily expensive.
Well, yeah, for sure, but
And
I, I
that was a big thing. That but I do like the idea of having Vader, because I didn't really want them to keep on bringing up Vader. I didn't want Vader to keep on, like, I felt like Vader had better shit to be doing than dealing with this small band of rebels. You know, why
yeah,
not send Inquisitors? That's what they're there for. Like, like the Grand Inquisitor by far is one of the greatest villains in the show. He has some of like the most awesome scenes of just like deconstructing what the Jedi are and going into like there's no difference in them. Like, I just chose a better, like, this path is only going to get me what this path got me to survive, and that's the reason why I chose it. You know, and a Jedi is it's terrible, especially knowing that the Grand Inquisitor was, you know, he was a guardian of the Jedi Temple. You know, he was there when Anakin destroyed the temple and everything like that, and he turned to the dark side. Like, that's fucking awesome.
yeah. I mean, that's great. I just didn't feel that he pushed the narrative like against Ezra to like help him grow as much. You know,
No,
like
but the thing
that
is
stuff's
that,
there. Like it's totally there. You're right, but
yeah,
I don't think it brought out the right kind of conflict to help Ezra grow in that
my
way.
thing is that I don't think the Grand Inquisitor, was meant to help Ezra grow, because he's more there to help Kanan grow. In season one, it's not necessarily Ezra and Kanan, Ezra who's the main character. Ezra is the person that we're supposed to connect to. He's the kid that's being taken onto this journey. But the Grand Inquisitor isn't meant to teach Ezra. He's meant to teach Kanan on what it means to be a Jedi, to, you know, to come back to the Order, and, you know, to embrace what it is to be a Jedi. You know, for a man who threw away everything and kind of, you know, abandoned his Jedi code to, to become a smuggler and to do whatever it took to survive, and now to, I need to take an apprentice. I need to teach him the ways of the Force. I need to do what what my teacher did for me. That's what I think I think that's what the Inquisitor is there for.
Maybe, but I don't. I feel Ezra's a little underdeveloped in the first season, and after that, Ezra starts to really grow, and then I'm a big fan. But
Well,
let's go to the very end. Let's go to see where
yeah,
all this ends up, because there's a lot to talk about in the middle, but we'll get to that. Um,
absolutely.
and the series finale was a 3-parter, technically, right?
Two. It was
2-parter.
two-parter.
Okay. Well,
Yeah. They had 3 part. It was. I mean, the four episodes that it was. I mean, the episode before it was much more of dealing with the death of one of the ghost members, and then they go into, you know, very much a straight shot for the end.
yeah, and I really like that pacing, because it never lets up, and I really
Yeah.
like how they brought everyone together for this final battle. and there are losses on both sides, and it was a fantastic finale. Um,
I loved it. I think that it's such a great tease. And even Dave Filoni said it himself. Like, if you guys are interested to see what happens to Ahsoka and Sabine, maybe we might make it. Which is yeah, that's definitely what we're like planning on doing.
yeah, I kind of like that. Honestly, that might be like the least interesting thing to me, but I don't mean that in a negative. I really like pretty much everything that happens in this finale, and I totally
To
want
be
that to be like the next series. Like, I don't want it to be a book. Dave Filoni is clearly the TV guy. Not to say that
yeah,
he couldn't be more if he wants to do something else, whatever. I'm just saying, like, you got something special here. You cannot replicate this easily. So let him tell that story how he wants.
yeah. Not only well, I mean, not only that, but also anything that has to deal with Ahsoka has to go through Dave Filoni. They what was it? That's like one of the things. If you're gonna use Ahsoka in anything, you have to go to Dave Filoni and ask his permission. So, because I mean that's his baby. He's grown her since she was a little Padawan in that hour long movie that everybody doesn't like except for me. To going away with Sabine and looking for Ezra in the distant galaxies.
Yeah, so let's just talk about that. That's a pretty big thing to end on. For Ezra to sacrifice himself to save his planet, which
Yeah,
was nice. And then you, of course, will find out why the Empire was so interested in the first place, why the Emperor wanted Lothal in the first place. 'Cause there's some fucking Jedi shit that could
yeah.
rupture the timeline.
I mean that, and I liked the idea of that. Not only that, but also I mean they were mining for kyber crystals as well. I mean that's another thing that they were doing, but like that was the main thing is that there was a portal into this light dimension, like this force dimension, and it's so interesting to kind of see because this is brought back in season. It was actually introduced in season one, which is super cool.
Not only that, in the season two premiere, the former governor of Lothal, when she's like begging the rebels to get her out, and then they go on the rescue mission, she knows something, and they never found out what that was. It was clearly this. That's a really cool wraparound.
Yeah, it's been teased, and it's so interesting because even Yoda tells Ezra when later on in season two when he goes back to the temple and he can actually see Yoda, and he's like, well, what is this? Like, how is it that I can see you now? And he's like, because you've become more connected to the Force. With your connection to the Force, you're being able to see a lot more in here. And it's so interesting to kind of see like once he's fully connected to the Force, the things that he can do, and like see and what it means to be a Jedi and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was really touching stuff. I think what he was willing to do to save his planet and his friends, like that's a huge amount of growth for a character like that who kind of starts out like honestly pretty whiny and like kind of a little too headstrong, and that's fine, you know. I mean, that's it's just a character trait. There's nothing wrong with that. It's about how you use it, and this show used it very well to help him become a mature young man and fulfill his fate. And I love Grand Admiral Thrawn as a villain. Like since his inception, since I became aware of those books, that is a fascinating Star Wars villain to me because because he's so different and he's not in touch with the Force. He's just a cold, calculated, maniacal son of a bitch, and who will stop at nothing.
Some of the greatest scenes in season three and season four was seeing Thrawn break shit down. Of like, well, this is what they're gonna do. This is who they are. This is based off of like what they've done in the past. These are the things that they're gonna do. This is where their base is located because of using star charts or because this is they broke in here to erase a specific area of a star chart. So obviously it must be in there. You see a lot of what Thrawn can fucking do and why he's so menacing and stuff like that. To be totally honest, I would have loved, and I think it would have been awesome if they would have brought Thrawn way earlier. Like if Thrawn was in charge of that entire section, that sector, and like they were just dealing with Thrawn the whole fucking time. Because I think more Thrawn is always fucking better.
More Thrawn is always better, and I kind of like that idea. But I also get the thing where they're like, all right, in the first season, the villain is the Grand Inquisitor. Second season, we got Vader. How are you going to top Vader? Well, you really can't because it's Darth Vader. But we got this other dude we haven't used in a while, so let's just put him in this part of the timeline instead. And that was that was great. I know some people wanted him like after the original trilogy, like in the books, but I think this is just as good, or at least interesting. I don't think it's just as good, but it's interesting.
Well, the thing is that because I was watching an interview with Dave Filoni, and Dave Filoni actually says he goes, well, I mean, if Ezra's not dead, you know, he's out there in the galaxy. Thrawn's not dead either.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like Thrawn. He goes, we never saw Thrawn die. He goes, you know, it's the same thing with Ahsoka. We never saw her die, so that doesn't mean she's dead. You know, so he may still be out there in like a distant galaxy causing mischief there.
I really, like really hope that's the case.
And I was like, that's so fucking like, oh my god, like you set up for so many things. Just like you put so many pieces on the board where you're like, well, I mean, if we get the opportunity, we can connect this piece here, we can connect this piece here, we can do these things, and you can do different stuff. And I love it so much. It leaves the imagination open.
And even if he doesn't come back, and like let's say Thrawn is dead, his comeuppance is so brilliant because it's a guy, like I said, who doesn't have any attachment to the Force whatsoever. He needs to understand it, and like he needs to understand all the cultures and the species around the galaxy. But the fact that Ezra knows, like, that's the one thing that Thrawn just can't fully wrap around.
Yes.
Ends up getting wrapped around by it, literally. And that, oh my god, that is fantastic storytelling.
It's fantastic, and I love seeing, you know, the story arc with like Zeb and Callus, you know, how that got finished off.
Oh, that was great. How he realized he didn't actually commit like a full-on genocide.
Yeah, like he realizes that he didn't commit a genocide, and like like his people are living very good on like a different planet out in the outskirts of like the universe and stuff like that, and like just that moment of like tears coming down Callus's eyes as like he's being welcomed there like a fucking piece, like a part of the family. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was really great stuff. That character, the way he grew was really fantastic too. But to your point, really quick, about like how they planted all these seeds for everything. Here's my thought on that. They're gonna do another series with Dave Filoni, and they're gonna release it on the Disney streaming platform.
Oh, that's I don't think they're gonna go XD anymore.
Yeah.
No way. I think that was the whole reason why season 4 was so rushed to get out.
Yeah, they're like, fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah, you know, and you know what? That's very true. They did. They were very much sending it all out and they were trying to get as much of it out as possible. But I do think that if they are going to do another Star Wars show of any kind, I think they're either going to put it directly to YouTube or they're going to do it on their streaming center.
Why would they wait, really quick? Why would they do it on YouTube?
Well, they've been doing it for their Forces of Destiny.
Oh, okay. That's different though. That's like 2D Flash animation. They're cute.
Yeah,
I like them, but that's totally different.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, the more things that they can get it on, the better. Not only that, but also I really enjoy Forces of Destiny. I think they're really cool stories.
Yeah, me too.
Stuff like that.
They're for little kids. They're cute.
Not only that, but also it did kind of fuck me up though, because I knew that Hera had survived to Endor. Because of Forces of Destiny. I was like, okay, well, Hera can't die, because she makes it to Endor.
Oh, okay. Well,
because one of the Forces of Destiny is all about Han going to Hera to go get food, so that way the Ewoks don't eat the stormtroopers.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And, like, Han Solo has to admit that the Ghost is faster than the Millennium Falcon in order to get the food. like that's the only way she'll let it go is if he admits that the Falcon's not as fast as the Ghost.
Oh, that's great.
And so
I need to see that one now.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, well, obviously Hera has to make it to has to make it there. And then some of the Forces of Destiny was kind of like, okay, well, this character is safe. Like Sabine meets up with Jyn Erso and stuff like that. So I mean, it was very interesting.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I knew a couple of characters.
I like that.
I knew some characters were safe if they wanted to at least make those make sense.
Yeah, well, I'm cool with that honestly, because like I'm not a like when someone's like who's gonna die like fucking Walking Dead or some shit like that's not really the big draw for me, you know. And apparently it's not the big draw for anyone watching Walking Dead anymore. But but like I like these characters a lot. I like these stories and I like these adventures they're on. And
Well, what did you
yeah,
think of the? I mean, spoilers if you haven't fucking
yeah,
seen
this thing's full of
Rebels,
spoilers. Go
I have
crazy.
no. Yeah. But I mean, what did you think of Kanan Jarrus's death?
Very good. Probably could have been a home run if someone like Thrawn was more directly involved. I feel like I know that that might sound weird, but because that character is so like maniacal,
Uh huh.
I feel that would have given it a certain edge. You don't need it by the finale, but I
Uh
think if
huh.
they really wanted to get the blood boiling, like even more so, because the Empire's still responsible. It's not like they're fucking like, oh, whoops, you know, it wasn't an accident, but
Yeah.
it feels almost a little too indirect, if that makes
Well,
sense. That's a
my
minor criticism. I think it still works really
yeah.
well.
I really enjoyed that I mean I enjoyed it because I felt that if Thrawn was involved, Thrawn would have never blown up those which are that platform. You know, it was basically all of their fuel for plant for the plant for doing any of the Tie fighters. I think Thrawn would have just let him go and stuff like that. Like it was too dangerous and stuff like that. Just let him go. We'll catch him another day.
Yeah, probably, but I'm not saying like I wanted Thrawn to kill him in that scene. I'm saying like a different circumstance where that
Yeah.
happened because this one feels just a little messier.
Well, I would argue the fact that Rebels in general is pretty messy. I mean,
Yes, yes, it is.
a lot of their situations are pretty fucking messy and stuff like that. And I mean, it's a great show, but there are a couple episodes where by the end of it, I mean, and not only that, but also 20 minutes is very quick.
Yeah, it's just, maybe a little too quick
Yeah,
sometimes.
20. Because I mean, sometimes you would watch it. Sometimes in Rebels, you would watch an episode, and then it would cut to the credits, and you'd be like, "Wait, it's already over? Like, wait, what did we really get done here? Like, nothing got done in this episode. Like, we met whales, or we tried to get oil. Like, what the hell happened?"
Yeah, and like on paper, this is like the shit for me.
Yes.
This show is you. I think you know my sensibilities pretty well.
Yeah.
This is fucking made for me, and it still is. It's still really good, and I still really like it. And I might
I
poo
know.
poo it once in a while, but just because we've also seen on the flip side how consistently good it was and could be at times too. So
Yeah.
like I just it's because I care about it that I wish it was all that good throughout its entire run.
See, and that's what's really important here is that just to see how awesome. I mean, to be totally honest, I thought Rebels was way more, which was so engaging, and I couldn't stop watching it. It's great to marathon. It really is.
Oh yeah, totally. The home run stretch I did on season 4,
Yeah.
that was great. Season 4 is still probably not the best. I think season 1 still is my favorite. But
Uh,
dang, that was fun.
I mean, to be totally honest, I really like season two when Ahsoka Tano becomes a member of the crew, and then you also go pick up like Rex, and you pick up like these characters from Clone Wars and stuff like that, because I had a really strong connection with Clone Wars. I really enjoyed it. So to kind of see that these characters not only survived the Clone Wars, they've survived this long, but are also major parts of the Jedi Legacy and also Rebels.
Yeah, yeah. I season 2 and season 4 are pretty much neck and neck. I'll give the edge to season 4 because it's shorter though, and less wheel spinning. Because towards the end of season 2, I felt like, oh no, where are we going with this? And then the season finale happens, and it's like, well, I don't know if it all makes sense in retrospect, but that was amazing. So whatever. What do I know?
Well, I mean, I really enjoyed it just because you finally got a confrontation between Ahsoka and Anakin and Darth Vader and stuff like that. And especially since if you know Clone Wars, it's the first time that they've actually spoken or talked to each other since they left each other on Mandalore.
Is that technically canon?
Yes, it actually is. They
Okay.
the last time that they were together was on Mandalore.
Okay. So for people who just watched the Clone Wars and Rebels, though, the last time they spoke was technically
The
after
temple.
her trial. Yeah, at the Jedi Temple.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So a part of the if you read the Ahsoka Tano book, it goes through like what exactly she'd been doing and stuff like that, and it says that the reason why Ahsoka and Rex weren't involved in Episode 3 is because they were fighting Maul on Mandalore for control.
Yeah,
And
and I would have been so fucking ecstatic to watch that episode done.
oh
Like
yeah, no, that was
that.
Dave
Oh,
Filoni's plan. That was his
yeah,
plan to
that was
go
the
to that
finale.
episode.
Yeah, yeah, we talked
Yeah, that
about
was
that
gonna
before on the show.
that was gonna be his series finale of Clone Wars, and I think that's so interesting. Just kind of just not only that, but also to see, just to kind of go like, oh shit, like that would have been an entire thing of Rex and Ahsoka trying to escape the clones as they're trying to murder them, along with Mandalorians who are also trying to kill them. It's a fucking cool. It's a really awesome scene in the book. If you guys can go check out the Ahsoka Tano book, it's fucking awesome. Go check it out.
I'm honestly glad she's still alive because they basically almost wrote themselves into a corner with how that character was like used in season two. Not that she was ever dull or boring. I just mean like the confrontation between her and Vader because she's not in the original trilogy. It's I think everyone kind of went in knowing like or thinking they knew that she was gonna die at some point, and that didn't happen. And I am so happy that they figured like in some ways it's kind of like if I hadn't seen it and someone just told me like, oh yeah, they use time travel to save Ahsoka Tano, I'd be like,
Fucking what?
that's fucking stupid. Fuck this show. It's time travel in Star Wars. Give me a break. But then you watch it and you're like, oh fuck, it's great. You know?
Yeah, and for some reason, when you're watching that like little scene, you're like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, you know why I think, and this goes to the Dave Filoni thing again, because Star Wars, the best of Star Wars, isn't the space battles, isn't the politics, isn't just the cool special effects. It's the emotional truth to it and the emotional like honesty that the characters have with one another and the world, because the Force is basically just the feels. It's the feels. That's it. And I don't mean that
Yeah,
of to be deductive or reductive about it, but like if you buy into who these people are and the stories that they're participating in, you're basically in. I mean, like we talked about all the time, like whenever we see each other now, like how the Last Jedi gets a shitload of flack. And it's like, well, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, if you believe like the emotions these people feel, like then you believe their connection to the Force, and once you're in that, like it's like before Empire Strikes Back, no one fucking lifted up a lightsaber, and then like literally telepathically did that, and then Luke does that in the opening of Empire. The Force is this weird nebulous thing that basically is whatever writers need it to be, as long as they explore what it
what it
is.
means. Yeah, absolutely. And I really do like that. I mean, I also love the idea of that episode is a nice way to not only show you what the Emperor wants on Lothal, it's also an explanation of what happened to Ahsoka Tano. It is also a great scene to see Ezra get over the death of his master, and it shows his grief and his pain, and it shows that he would do anything to save his master, and he wants to save him so much, and just to do the same thing he did for Ahsoka, pull him out of the situation. And Ahsoka even says, if you do that, you and Hera die. There's
Yeah.
no. He sacrificed himself so that way you guys can complete the mission. He did what he needed to do.
Yeah, and that's some heavy shit right there.
Yeah, it's a moment where it's the same and it's a moment that Anakin had to deal with as well, where he had to deal with the losing Padme, and he wasn't able to do it. He wasn't strong enough. And it's a nice little parallel of seeing like this is what it means to be a Jedi, to be able to let go, to not crave it.
And not only that, there's also a nice little moment where he gets to see his parents.
Yeah, that's another awesome scene. The animation team did awesome job with the Emperor. I think that in the final episode they did a fucking great job with the Emperor. They showed how the Emperor could be not only menacing, but he could be like the serpent trying to offer you the apple. You know, he especially just the way they designed him, where they made him look like they made him look like Palpatine. You know, like your grandfather trying to tell you like this is what you could have, and then turning him into the Emperor. Like when he denies him, it's so fucking cool.
Yeah, I know that was. Oh my god, because it's also like just funnier. I talked about it on the retrospective, but like, Palpatine, like when he turned Anakin, he was basically like, all the ideas are there in the prequel movies, but he basically in the movie just tells him like, join the dark side and we'll save Padme. I'm in. Oh, really? That's it? Oh, all right, great. And then in Return of the Jedi, he tells Luke like, join me. He's like, no. He's like, oh, this is way easier last time. Ah, shit. And then here we actually see him like almost winning him over to his side. Like maybe not really, but like there's a fun back and forth between the characters.
Well, because I feel like Palpatine is he's a great manipulator. And I feel like even though Ezra was promised his parents, I don't think that's what he would have gotten.
Yeah, no, he's basically fucking fucked up genie. He's like the monkey's paw personified. Oh, you want Padme? Oh, well, she's dead. But look at, dude, you got this sick ass new suit. I can't run. It hurts to breathe. Every waking moment is pain.
I'm always in pain. Why?
That's why Vader's so fucking pissed off.
Yeah, absolutely. It actually in the comic books it does mention that the Emperor made his suit very uncomfortable.
No, what a fucking dick. He couldn't even give him like unlimited power in the dark side. He's like, oh, and here's a fucking cheap ass suit.
No, yeah, he makes the suit very uncomfortable, and like apparently it's like very painful and stuff like that. So that way, and like the explanation is so that way Vader can never forget the hate, and it will make him even stronger. But I just think it's a dick move.
It's a super dick move. Like, yo, Palpatine, we just created this fucking planet, this moon-sized planet destroyer. You got to do something about like the oxygen intake in this thing, man. Like I look at fucking I'm walking like C-3PO.
Well, the funds weren't there. They were going all into the Death Star.
Yeah.
So the funds weren't there. So what am I gonna do? Do you see how many fucking ships the rebels blow up? I have to replace those. Where do you think the money comes from?
Oh my god, the Empire is totally Republicans.
He has a large overhead. Do you see how many people he employs? There's a large overhead.
Thoughts and prayers. Anyways, the use of Palpatine in this was a nice surprise because I actually wasn't aware that he was going to show up in the show, and I wasn't really asking for it, so I was okay. But like, that was a nice surprise.
Yeah, I mean, he showed up once in season 2 when he was talking to Vader. And that was about it. And I really enjoy. I mean, just having that scene where the Palpatine is coming out and he's just like Ezra Bridger. You're just like, oh shit. Like he's trying to. He's a fucking witch with like his cauldron and shit. And it's a really cool scene. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I would say that it totally sticks the landing in its ending. With Ezra shooting off to space. The rebels finally saving Lothal and hearing that they never come back. That really touched me for some reason. I thought that was really beautiful.
I thought it was really interesting just to kind of find out that while Ezra and Kanan were doing their thing, that was, you're just about to get, because I think right when they free Lothal is maybe a couple of months before the events of Rogue One.
Really?
Like the timeline is very fucking short. It's very short because even in the after thing, it says like, oh yeah, like nobody ever we prepared for a battle to come back, but shortly after the Battle of Lothal, the Death Star was destroyed. So it's maybe only a couple of months before the events of Rogue One and Episode 4.
Oh, that's pretty nifty.
Yeah, and then it goes, and so, which also means that, which is very impressive, that because Sabine and Zeb and everybody else was there, Hera was fucking flying the Ghost during Rogue One by herself.
Oh my god, she was flying it fucking pregnant too.
And pregnant.
Holy shit.
Which makes it even cooler.
Tara's the best. She's just unstoppable.
Hera is badass. I wouldn't mind hearing more about where that child kind of went and like who that kid is and stuff like that, because because a couple of other kids that grew up after the Empire, after the Death Star blew up, have shown up in the new movies and stuff. So I would like to. I mean, that would be a very interesting kind of like, oh yeah, like that's Hera, that's Sandula, or that's General Jarrus, or anything like that. Like that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, there's more like wartime stuff, I guess. But honestly, I want not to completely derail the Rebels conversation, but like I'd want to see more Star Wars movies with like the small scaleness of the first season of Rebels, where it's not like up against like wartime stuff or like another evil empire on the rise. Like we're getting that with the new movies already, and I think they're doing it very well. I want stuff like just small little adventures. I want to see them go like on like space treasure hunts. I want to see them fucking do Seven Samurai, not the episode they did in Clone Wars, but like the full on like
hey, that's a
assembling of a
Clone
team.
Wars.
It is an okay episode of that. I fucking adore Seven Samurai so much. I'm never gonna like be accepting of that episode because it only does it okay. Like that's total bias, and I recognize that. But
but I do think that you're right. I mean, Star Wars has so many. It's such a big galaxy that you can do so many different stories and stuff like that. And I not every story has to be about Jedi. It has to be about like these people's connection to the Force. Like that definitely is a very interesting concept and storyline. But I think talking about people who are normal, normal people dealing with these superpowered people is also really awesome to kind of like look into and stuff like that. Like look into smugglers. Like I fucking love Sabine, and I love like going into like the history of Mandalore and the different clans and kind of like how the leadership works. And like how like certain clans bowed to the Empire, how certain clans didn't. Like that's so fucking cool.
yeah. Oh, by the way, I never talked about it, I guess, on this episode, but Sabine and Hera were my favorite characters, like hands down.
Oh yeah.
Like I always thought their stories were so compelling. They dealt with, I think, the most emotionally in terms of like what their stories presented. Like Hera is basically like just trying to keep everyone fucking together, and everyone's an idiot. Like she's the only one who like has her head on the right way.
She is very much the mother of the ship.
Dude, she's the mother and the father, and
yeah.
any leader of a family, she is that. Because fucking Kanan, I guess you could say he kind of is, but he's really not, because he can be a total idiot too.
Kanan, well, the thing
I
is,
like him. I like him.
He's brash though. He can be very brash.
Yeah.
And he can do some really dumb shit. But I really do like the way that Hera. I like the episode where they go meet Rex, and then Kanan is forced to deal with his hatred of clones.
Yeah, no, I like that stuff too.
I love that. I love because all of them really get all of the Ghost Crew get a backstory, or like how exactly, or like what exactly happened, and stuff like that. Like that's really and I like finding out that she found Chopper from a crashed X-wing, and like that's how she found Chopper. Chopper was he was a droid in the Clone Wars. An X-wing crashed on her planet, and she fixed him up, and she kept him as a fucking friend. Like I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a cool idea.
Yeah. Also, just to touch on something that Rebels is doing that other Star Wars properties really haven't like caught on with fully. They incorporated a lot of like aliens and robots into their crew, and even I know what race is Hera? They're the
she's a Twi'lek.
Yeah, the Twi'lek. The modern Star Wars stuff isn't really doing that in live action. They're not incorporating like new alien designs and stuff, and like I really like that. Like I see people every day. People suck. Show me like fucking more Zebs, more Heras, more
Well,
fucking Ewoks. I know people are mixed on the Ewoks, but fucking, I
my
want to see
my
a fucking Ewok eat a human being.
I did you want to see Chewie rip off an arm? Like that
Yeah,
was in that would have been kind of fucking tight. But
that would have been tight, but it
uh,
doesn't need to be in the movie.
yeah, it doesn't need to be in the movie. It's in the book though. It is in the book.
Oh, okay.
They did keep it in the book in the Force Awakens book. It actually is there that Chewie rips off the dude's arm.
Yeah, like I'm just talking shit. Like I don't actually want to see that stuff, but I just want
No.
more aliens.
But you know what? I like the idea of them going back to Ralph McQuarrie's artwork and going like, what concepts of a character can we use for a new alien race? Like, I like the idea that Zeb is actually the first design of Chewbacca.
Yeah, that's great.
Like that's awesome. Like, why not do that? Like, that's like, oh yeah, like let's bring it back. Okay, what did Ralph McQuarrie draw? Well, let's use some of that.
Yeah, and there's still so much untapped Ralph McQuarrie stuff. Like, I don't want them to just keep going back to that well, but if you are, there are far worse places to draw from. So, good job, guys. That stuff is just so gorgeous. Like, I want to buy like a whole fucking museum and just fill it up with Ralph McQuarrie art. Like, if you haven't been familiar with Ralph McQuarrie's artwork on Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, the Star Trek movies, everything else he did in his entire life, fascinating artist. So go check out that stuff.
Yeah,
he has since passed away, unfortunately, but his artwork lives on. It's gorgeous.
yeah, I mean it's some really cool shit, and I really do like the idea that, you know, some of the stuff is like brought back, and all we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of clean it up a bit. We're gonna make it a little more modern, and change a couple of colors, and boom, there we go. We have a new character inside of the Star Wars universe, and we have an entire new like race of people. It's badass.
Yeah, it's great. A lot of this series is great, and I hope I've made it clear that even though I've kind of poo-pooed on some things that they've done, or I think they could have done better, I sincerely love this show, and I love that Dave Filoni gets Star Wars, and I want him to continue working with Star Wars. I will disagree with you, Nick. We've had this conversation many a time already. That I don't want him to work on the movies, because I want the Star Wars TV shows to be comfortable still. If he wants to work on the movies, then I'll be like, all right, if that's what he wants. But I want these things to maintain quality, and that is difficult.
You know what? I wouldn't mind if he gets to direct an episode of the Jon Favreau live action like series. I wouldn't mind that.
Well, technically, that show still needs a showrunner. He's just executive producing.
I would love it if fucking Dave Filoni became a showrunner for that show. Like, keep giving him TV. He knows how to fucking do TV. Let him do it.
Yeah, and this would also probably solve like a total other problem that I have with a lot of TV shows, is that they don't really set up like shots to like visually tell their story. You have to do that in animation, so he already knows what to look for. You know,
exactly.
So that'd be kind of neat. I'd also like a woman or a person of color to do it, or a woman of color to do it, because Star Wars seems to be like allergic to anybody who's not like a successful white guy. But what do I know?
Well,
I am not that.
The only reason in which I keep on putting Dave Filoni's name up isn't because he's a white dude.
No, he's fucking talented. Like, he's the guy. Like, I'm like bringing up like important issue shit, but also like, yeah, Dave Filoni's a talented dude. I mean,
his because the main reason, going back to the issue of Clone Wars, Clone Wars feels a lot more, you know, we're gonna go on separate missions and stuff like that, and just kind of like, you know, we're gonna feel out what the rest of the galaxy is doing during this war, and we're gonna do different stuff like that, and not involve, you know, Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, Yoda. We're not even gonna have those characters in this episode. We're gonna deal with like a bunch of smugglers and shit like that for an episode. And I think that was mainly because George Lucas was so involved. You know, George Lucas was definitely the one that was like going like, okay, let's do something new. He may not have had all the greatest ideas, but Dave Filoni knew how to get the ideas, turn it into something fucking awesome, and then give it back to George and go, what do you think? And I think that shows in Rebels with what was it, with Cham Syndulla, you know, with Hera's dad. And I love kind of seeing these old characters from the Clone Wars come back and even talk these war stories from the Clone Wars. Like I love seeing that kind of shit.
I really do love that too, but I really just want them to continue growing into new territory. Like what they're hopefully doing with the Ryan Johnson trilogy and all the other Star Wars spin-offs after Han Solo,
Yeah.
where they're fully branching out. Like, all right, we're gonna close off the Skywalker story now, mostly because there's only one of them left. But now we're gonna branch out into untapped territory. Uncharted potential, the undiscovered country, to mix my sci-fi genres together.
But
But yeah,
I
that's
wouldn't
what I want.
I wouldn't mind like going out and then you finding like wandering Jedi, like people who have a connection to the Force that were just never Jedi. They know the Force, they embrace the Force, they just not Jedi. Maz Kanata's like that. Ahsoka Tano is like that, where she's not a full fledged Jedi and stuff like that. But if you ever want to have like a really cool time with both Clone Wars and Rebels, go to one of the episodes in like season 3. It's the Battle of Ryloth. Then go to season 3 of Rebels and watch Cham Syndulla talk about that episode as if it was a war story, and talking about how Mace Windu, like how he saved Mace Windu's life, and yet Mace Windu saved his life. It's really fucking cool.
Yeah, no, that stuff is great. Again, and now you just got me like my wheels turning. Like, what I'd love to see in the Star Wars movie. You could set this even like in like the years and years and thousands of generations before any of these stories take place, after side story, whatever, where someone comes across, like from the Jedi Order, they come across another force sensitive person who's been force sensitive their whole life, and they've been honing it in their own way, but not according to the Jedi code, so it's wrong. And then they start having to, like, throughout the story, movie, TV show, whatever, they come to this realization that, like, oh yeah, they're not a Jedi, but that doesn't mean that they're any less adequate of a Force user, or more importantly, on the light side of the Force. Just because they're not under the Jedi code or Jedi Order, they're still doing good out there. You know, kind of like a wandering Ronin samurai or something like that, but like less morally ambiguous. Like they're just a good person doing good in the world. What would you say you're going to miss the most from Star Wars Rebels?
You know what? I'm gonna miss the crew. I really do miss the crew, and I'm gonna miss the episodes like the episode where Zeb and Ezra go shopping, and they're not, and like they're just not getting along, and Hera sends them shopping, and they become the best of friends, and just because they get into some mischief and stuff like that. They steal a Tie fighter. They blow up a whole bunch of stuff, and then they save a couple of people. And it's pretty dope.
I honestly wish more little episodes stuck out like that, because I like that one a lot too. I think I'm right there with you. I think I'm gonna miss the crew the most, because they were surprisingly well-rounded characters, and they're all very likable. And I sincerely hope that we do get off side stories with them, or comics or something, because this show has a fan base. These are really great characters. Hera should be like fucking Liam Neeson in Taken, like maybe a stormtrooper takes her kid because they're like, "What the you crossbred a species? How'd you do that?" And then
Hmm.
Hera could just like side eye them, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and then she fucking just goes wild and kicks a bunch of ass. Or maybe Sabine, you can follow her on her journey, like before she goes on the hunt for Ezra with Ahsoka. You know, maybe she's still helping the Mandalorian settle some shit off world.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if it, you know what, I wouldn't mind seeing Hondo, because I think Hondo, not only in Clone Wars but also in Rebels, was some of my favorite episodes.
You know what? I actually love Hondo, and I'm surprised I didn't talk about him at all. I really like that character. He's a perfect neutral. He's a perfect, like, just middle ground guy who kind of has a soft spot for the people who sometimes cross him, sometimes he crosses them. That's a really fun character. It was a great run. Never less than quality, at least in my opinion. I'll miss it dearly, and I'm happy it ended on such a strong note, and it kind of made the whole thing like pop out in like a big picture sort of way. So I'm happy with it.
I'm very happy that Dave Filoni was like, I think 4 seasons is enough.
Yeah.
And stuff
Like I'm gonna be selfish and be like, yo, but like, what if he just did 5, and round it out? But we're already stretching quality. No, 5.
What about
5.
6? At that point, you're gonna go like, well, what about 6?
Yeah.
Why not?
Like, I just like following these dudes around. So
It's
like then I'd be complaining about them stretching the show even thinner. But then I'd be like, yeah, but at least I got 6 seasons though. So
yeah. Right? I mean, to be totally honest, what I originally thought was it was going to end with Rogue One.
I thought that too, and I'm very glad it didn't.
I originally thought that they were gonna lead into the Battle of Rogue One. Like, it was kind of like, all right, guys, let's go, and like them getting on the ship and taking off, and then it's like the end.
Oh, they would have fucking like that. That would have been like a neat fan thing, but then like, you have to remember what it means for the characters though. So like,
exactly.
I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah, and but that's the thing though, is that it would have been a really cool fan thing of like, oh yeah, we're going to go to Rogue One and shit like that. But it's also like the idea of like, but wait a minute, this entire show is about these characters, and Rogue One has nothing to do with these fucking characters.
Yeah,
like literally nothing.
Like the most that like crosses over is like Leia pops up in an episode, Hera was there in the Ghost, and they use a Hammerhead Corvette in an episode. All separate occasions. So
and the Ghost and the Ghost shows up in Rogue One.
Yeah.
And then also Bail Organa shows up for a little while.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But that's about it. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, last thing, was that Jimmy Smits who voiced him too?
It was Jimmy Smits.
Yes. Okay, because I always wanted more Jimmy Smits. Jimmy Smits is so good as Bail Organa.
It actually it says that Jimmy Smits takes R2 in the Ahsoka book.
Oh, interesting.
It actually says that Jimmy Smits takes R2-D2, and that's why Leia has him and like is able to send him.
Oh, that's nice.
But the main thing is that when when R2-D2 meets up with Ahsoka, because Ahsoka looks for Bail Organa, she sees R2. R2 hasn't gotten his memory wiped, so he knows who Ahsoka is, and lets her on Jimmy Schmidt's plane, like his ship, and like she's
great.
just and like he unlocks everything, and like lets her in, and like fucking Bail Organa's like, what the hell happened? Like, where was the security? And then he looks at R2, and R2 just like backs away, and like leaves, and he's like, I knew we should have wiped his memory.
All right, well that's it for Star Wars Rebels Forever.
Absolutely,
it was a fun time. Thanks for talking with me, Nick. Where can other people find you online and in person? You
can find me on the Waffle Press. You can also find me on Facebook and on Facebook with if you just look up Nick Valero, and Twitter if you look up the Nick Valero.
What about in person?
In person,
what's your address? What's your social?
No, I'm not gonna give you my address and my social. We're at Undercity every so often. So if you happen to pass by, let the guys know. Tell them that we sent you.
But your address is what I asked.
What? Give them your address.
You can find me at DEWGO Waffles on Twitter.com and follow the Waffle Press. Like, subscribe if you didn't like this video. Like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. Check out all the other stuff we're talking. We'll be talking some more Pacific Rim soon, some independent films for Kirk, and some more retrospectives coming your way, because we're just about to launch the rest of our Hannibal Lecter retrospective. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We have been professionally unprofessional.
Diego's address is...
I know what we have to do now. One last lesson.